to see what you're given. At the beginning of 2010, a landfill contained 1,400 tons of solid waste. The increasing function W models the total amount of solid waste stored at the landfill. So that's kind of important, an increasing function. Planners estimate that W will satisfy the differential equation dW dt equals 1/25 times W minus 300 for the next 20 years. W is measured in tons, T is measured in years from the start of 2010. A, it's a what? No. A says use the tangent line to make an approximation. B says find the second derivative with respect to time in terms of W. And the last part is find the particular solution. And it says when with the initial condition, W of 0 is equal to 1,400. I'm going to use that in A. W of 0 is equal to 1,400.
What after last you have to use something like a lower problem?
You might. It's a hint, actually. Okay? But, well, this is all one problem. Okay, Andrew, we're doing this problem. Everybody should be with me. And because I really think you're going to have a problem like this. It could be as hard as last year's. Last year's was a little harder because of the signs, but it's the same question. Okay, use the tangent line. Well, we know how to write a tangent line. The problem is I don't know the right variables. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. What are the variables in this problem? Not x and y. Alex, you know what they are? Yeah. Okay, so it's t comma w. So the equation of the tangent line, and you have the whole bottom half of the paper to work on, but it's w minus w1 equals the slope, and it's t minus t1. I always use that form, although you do have y equals mx plus b here. Well, do I know a value for w? Yeah. What is it? 1,400. And that's when t is 0. So all I need to put in there is what? Now what's missing? The slope. What's dw dt? It's the slope. Isn't that the slope? Yeah. M equals dw dt. So you should be able to write the equation of the tangent line, and you get a point for using dw dt, for recognizing you're going to do that. So it's going to be w minus 1,400, and you do not have to simplify, is equal to my slope. Okay, it's 1 over 25, and then it's 1,400 minus 300 times t minus 0. That's the equation of the tangent line, right? And then it says, because I don't really know what it looks like. It maybe looks like this. And there's the tangent line. This is the slope right here. 300, thank you. That would make a difference. Hopefully I'm not going to copy things wrong on the exam. But you never know. This should be 300. Okay, there's the tangent line. So I want to use the tangent line to estimate this W value on my waste function, but I'm going to use the tangent line to do it. It'll be an approximation. Well, I just drew it. We'll have to decide if it's under or over. Okay, so what's W equal to? We don't even have to simplify it. W equals 1,400 plus 125, and it's 1,400 minus 300 times what? What's the time then? I said it, and I wrote it wrong. Let me fix that, though, so I want it right. It's 1,400 minus 300. What's the time? Yeah, what's the time when I want to do this? 3 months later. T equals 1, 4. Yes, ask us for that, yes. Because when T is 0, when the initial time is 0, we're starting with 1,400 pounds of weight. No, W is the amount of waste you have. Doing right here. When t equals 0, the waist I have is that. Then this is the equation of the tangent line. Now, that's good enough, by the way. But what's happening to the waist? What? It's increasing. No, this is the slope. That is the slope. And then there's your t value. That's a good question. Pardon? And it says t equals 1/4. You might have to read it a couple times. Oh, you could have a simpler equation, but you know what? That's a good enough answer. I'm done. Because if I simplify it wrong, I get take your points back. So, yes, you may do that, but what if you do it wrong? What's 1/4 times 1/25? That's 100 of 1100. So it's 1411. And we said it was increasing, right? The waist is increasing, therefore it should have more waist. That's A. But do you have to do all that work? No, this answer will do it for you. All you have to do is set 1 point for finding dw dt. They didn't have to simplify it. Then 1 point for your answer. So my answer there is fine. With all that stuff, it's good. Kind of nice for you guys to say, oh, it's 1411. Yeah, it has gotten bigger. Okay? It does, but if I didn't get 1411, then I know I did something wrong, right? Just a little check. Okay, that was A. What's B asking for? Uh-oh. This is not a good thing. Okay. Sometimes when it thinks it's not a good thing.
My car died in the middle of the parking lot.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
I held the phone.
Oh, that's why nobody came in today. Okay, so let's write this WDT down again. Okay, dW dt equals 1/25 W minus 300. Okay, we want to find the second derivative. Now you guys have to think about what you're doing. Okay, Declan? I want to find d dt. Can I pull that through the 1/25? Yeah, because the derivative of 1/25 is 0 if I want to use the product rule. But that's a lot of work. And the derivative of that ends up being 0, so I get the same as just ignoring it. So the second derivative, now you did not get the second point here without getting this derivative right. So if you say the answer is 1/25, you don't get any points out of the 2, because it's not 1/25. It's 1/25 times the derivative of the inside function. What's the derivative of w with respect to t? It's not 1. It's dw dt. I graded this problem. Most people said it was 1. So you have to pay attention to your derivative operator. If this had been dw, then it would have been 1. But it's a t here, isn't it? So if you write it out, always write it out. Remember when we did implicit differentiation, I went dx over dx? If I always write it out, I'm not going to make that mistake. What's the derivative of minus 300? 0. Okay. Looks good. What is dw dt? It's 1 over 25 times, and we know it is. It's 1 over 25 w minus 300. Right? What's true about the second derivative? Remember, w is going up. At t equals 0, we have 1400. At t equals 1/4, we have 1411. So what's true about this number right here? This is what? Positive or negative? Positive. Can't be negative. So on the interval, and they really wanted to see that, I got my first point, but to get the second point, on the interval between 0 and 1/4, the second derivative is positive. Now remember, you are convincing the reader. So I'm going to say, well, yeah, I said it's positive. What does that tell me? Then my function is what? Concave up, and it's increasing. So where's the tangent line? Tangent line is below. How did I get what? Because at 0, we knew we were at 1400. Then at 1/4, it asked you to find the waist at 1/4. And we know it's concave up because the second derivative is positive on that interval. Even I missed that. What is dWdt? Yeah, but we know what it is. Look at your paper. It's 1/25th W minus 300. You just substitute it right in there. So therefore, the function's concave up. I would probably include a drawing just to make sure the reader knows what I'm talking about. And the tangent line is an underestimate. I don't really have to talk about the fact that it's increasing. That's irrelevant. Just the fact that it's concave up, the tangent line will be an underestimate. Even if it were decreasing over here, the tangent line is still an underestimate. Okay? Now, one last piece to do, where the bulk of your points are, is right here. Solve the differential equation with an initial condition of 0, 1400. So I'm going to rewrite it so we have something to work with. And so dw dt, and you probably forgot what I told you to do with the constants. What's the first thing we do? We separate the variables. So we're going to multiply through by dt. Okay? Guys, do it with me. So dw equals, because I'm going to let you do one, which is harder. So if you get this, it doesn't hurt to do it more than once because you're not going to memorize these. At least I don't think so. And before the exam, we need to review this because I'm pretty sure you're going to have a differential equation on the exam. Because if you go back, I went back several years, we saw a differential equation each of those years. Okay, do you remember what I told you to do with these constants, the 1 over 25? Don't put it on the left side. Because remember, in a differential equation, what are we trying to do? It's an equation which involves derivatives and whose solution is a function. So I want to solve for w in terms of time. So I want as little as possible on the left side. But I said as possible. So leave the 1/25th there. But there's a problem on the right side. Because what's my variable? It's t. I don't want that w there, do I? So what are we going to do? No, not going to substitute. Divide. I want to have all the t's on the right and all the other letters on the left. Letters. Leave the 25 alone. You can move it over. I'm just going to tell you it's going to be harder to solve. And this is w minus 300. This is just like the problem we did last week. Remember the parachute problem? And I said just leave the negative 2 on the right side. So it's dw over w minus 300. So let's see. Since 1997 to 2012, I've seen 3 problems that are identical. Good chance you might see it again. Equals 1/25th. Okay, now what do we do? Got your point. Now what do we do? How do you get rid of the dt's? How do you get rid of derivatives? No. Integrate. You, yes, of course. We did. We separate, we integrate, we add c, we substitute in, and we solve and try to get an equation. You probably just forgot. Okay, this bothers you. What if I had this? We'll do 3 different things. It shouldn't bother you, but it does. What about dw over w? That's the same as this. 1 over w times dw, which is the same as this. Okay, guys? I said, I'm not doing that one yet. This is what I have, something like that. What is the 300 just going to do to my function? It's going to shift it left and right, whatever. Yeah, it's going to go to the right because positive, because it's minus. So this would give me what? What's the answer to this one? It's the ln of absolute value of x plus c. So what's this going to give me? The only time you get natural log is if it's 1 over x. If it's 1 over x squared, you do not get natural log. That's the power. I didn't. I'm just, and this is, I'm thinking on the side. And the 300 is bugging me. So what do you think this is going to be? This isn't the log of w. It's the log of what? It's the log of w minus 300. All that is a shift. Remember when we did that last week with the parachute problem? And there's a video online that does that. Well, am I going to need the absolute value? No, because the waist is growing. Yeah, you can leave it. So what's this side? They will not mark it wrong if you don't put it in on this problem. Other problems they will, because it might be important. No, just keep it. So what's this one going to give you? What's the antiderivative of dt? It's just t. So you've got 2 points. You get no more points if you don't do what next? Plus c. If you get into the middle of the problem and you get further down and you go, oh, I forgot to get into my c, cross out your work and go back to right after you integrated, put your c in and rework the problem. Can't put it in later and say, oh, I'll fix it. No, you didn't fix it because it's not right. Okay, now what should we do? Find c. Okay, so you know it goes through that point, right? Do I have it written down right? So this is t and this is w. Why don't we substitute it in right now? Because that's easiest. So it's the log of 1400 minus 300, which is clearly a positive number, equals 1/25 times 0 plus c. Is it 900 or 1100? Okay. Oh yeah, but how many people do you think didn't write 900? A lot. If you're worried about the arithmetic, leave it 1400 minus 300. You're just fine. I know that's so weird for you, isn't it? It's really hard to do. So now let's go ahead and substitute the c in right there. So it's the log of w minus 300, whoopsie, equals 1/25 t plus my c. Yeah. We're not done. Now I got my fourth point right here. When I put the value in right there, I got the fourth point. I will not get the answer point right if I subtract that wrong. All I'm going for now is one more point for the answer point. So I have to solve for w. Well, we're going to do it because we can. So how do you solve for w? I don't like logs. How do we get rid of them? E. E to that side and e to this side. Don't say you're going to shortcut it by distributing because it's wrong. Yes, it's e to this equals e to that. Well, you could do it this way. You could say this base here is e. E to this whole side is equal to w minus 300. It doesn't matter. These cancel each other out, so I get this. Actually, I think about it, this is a lot easier problem than last year. So it's e to the 1/25 t plus the natural log of 1100. A lot of students had that, and then they changed this and made plus a log of 1100. That's not true. Well, it's this. You may leave it like that. I think it's safer to leave it like that. And this is times e to the log of 1100. You okay with that? And this is just 1100. So this ends up being 1100 e to the 1/25 t. But if you're not convinced or sure of yourself, then don't. I'm just going to leave it like that. And so I would get two answers, but we know this is always positive, right? So w minus 300 equals e to this thing. And so if I solve for w, it's 300 plus that. me finish writing this. All I did was get rid of the absolute value and add 300 to both sides. So there are. Technically there are. You get this one, or you get 300 minus e to the 1/25th t plus the log of 1100, and then you check the initial conditions are 0, 1400. You check to see which equation here is going to work. When t is 0, this is going to be e to the log of 1100. I don't want 300 minus 1100. That's not going to work. So it has to be this one. This one is not true. Cross it out. Do cross it out. They don't like you to circle your answer, because you might circle something that's not the final answer, and you do have the final answer there, but if you circle something, we take it as your final answer. So let's say you're not really sure, but you circle something you think is the right answer, and it's not done, and you finish it up later on. If you don't put a circle around it, we'll give you the points. If you put a circle around the wrong piece, no. Morning. Yes. You're not done until 12:30. Then you have time for lunch and go to $6. Okay. Now, the first part, I hope we can do the tangent lines. You know you're going to see a tangent line on the test. You know, the problem is going to be the variables maybe. And then the second one, if you didn't get the correct second derivative, you were not eligible for the next point. So you lost 2 right away. No, I'm explaining it, though. It doesn't take that long to do. 15 minutes is all you get. So do you want me to time you on the next one?
Yeah, let's try it. All right. Where's the next one?
Next page. And it's the same question. A is a little different, but B and C, B is the same question. What are they asking for on B? Find the what? Second derivative. It's exactly the same question. Look at the differential equation. Almost the same. There's a difference here. Before we had 1/25th, and it was W minus 300. What's the difference between this one and that one? This is switched. You think that negative is going to be a problem? Yes. It's going to be a problem. Okay. Not necessarily. That's not what the problem is going to be. And I think the negative is going to get lost somewhere along the way. But anyway, give it a try. I'll stop this and give you a chance to try.
You plug 60, or you plug 40 and 78.
Okay, so which is faster? Okay, there it is. You get a point for using the derivative, even if you did it wrong, and a point for your answer. So that was easy, 2 points. And because you guys did a really nice job listening to me on part B, you were okay for that with this one. Well, most of you did. Okay, so dv dt is 1/5, right? 100 minus b. And you took the derivative of that. So the second derivative is 1 times the derivative of the inside thing, which is what? Negative, which is a hint for your antiderivative if you think about it, dv dt. So it's negative 1/5 times 1/5 times 100 minus b. And the baby bird's growth rate hopefully won't be going down. Huh? Because the derivative of this is a negative. Because the derivative of 100 is 0, and that gives you a negative 1. And this is always negative, and the graph has a part that's concave up. So the graph should always be, and you guys will say it better than me, should always be concave up, but it's not. you still have to put some words with it. So, okay, there it is. It says a portion of the graph is concave up. Okay, you guys can be as succinct as that?
Yep.
I'm not so good with it, but
I got 4 points.
yeah, so you got 4 points there. You should get 4 more and have an 8 and walk out of there with a 5 on this problem.
Hey, you didn't do C quite right. I tried C.
You can just leave it like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this problem.
How many points is C?
5. But that's the,
Gee, that's the one I skip on the test.
don't skip that one because that's the easiest one to learn how to do. Okay,
What do you got?
D is equal to 1/5 100 minus B. Now this is a little harder to integrate, but it's just like the other one. It's not B minus 100. I wish it were. So dB is equal to 1/5. Leave the 1/5 over there. 100 minus B dt. Now I know what I have to get rid of. I don't want this 100 minus B there because that's not a T. Fair enough. So we'll divide by 100 minus B. Because remember, even if you have a hard time with this, let's say you integrate this wrong, that's okay. You're still eligible for the C value. You got 1 point for separating. And you know what? How many times are you going to see this? You're going to see it a lot. So get used to it and learn it. And then you integrate both sides. Now, would you like to see a U substitution so you see why this is going to be negative?
No.
So U is equal, well, for some of you it is. Yeah, we are. We're going to integrate that. So du is equal to minus dB. No, you see it, but most people miss the negative sign. I graded it. So it's going to be minus du over u equals, what's the antiderivative of the right side? 1/5 t. What has to happen? Plus c. So you get your point for c even if I mess this up. Because this symbol here means find the antiderivative of the function that's between the integral and the dt, and that function is 1 with respect to t. It's going to be ln. But did you guys get the negative sign?
Yeah. Minus ln.
The dt goes away. This symbol here, the dt with this little s thing, means find the antiderivative of that. You don't ask me what happens to the square root sign when I say that's equal to 3. dt goes away with that. Find the antiderivative. Like when I do 2 plus 3, you don't ask me where the plus goes when I say it's 5. It's an operator. So when you do this other one here, and I will rewrite it, it's 1 over u du. Okay? This is saying find the antiderivative of that function. What's the antiderivative of 1 over u? The log of u minus the log of u. Let's go ahead and put u back in. What was u? 100 minus b. It can be, it would be correct, unnecessary because the weight can't be negative, right? 1/5, whoops. True. But you have to get rid of it eventually. Okay, now I need to know C. How big was the bird? How much did the bird weigh when it was born? 20. So it's minus the log of 100 minus 20. Clearly, I don't need the absolute value. Equals 1/5 of 0 plus C. I get a point for that, even if I do it wrong. So negative log of 80 equals C. So if I miss the negative sign, but I put the point in, I can still get that point. I lost my antiderivative point. So we're going to put that right in here. And here's the next part. The people who did do this correctly messed up. Well, they didn't get the extra point. But it's just 1 point. But how did they mess up? No, they said this was the log of negative 100 plus b. Can you do that? Can you bring this negative sign inside? No. It's an exponent. I can make it be 100 minus b to the negative 1, but I'm not even going to do that. Why don't we just divide by negative 1? That's the easier way to get rid of the negative sign. And if you remember on those little algebra quizzes that we gave you, that was one of the questions. Why is it there? Because I saw it mishandled many times. Many years, not just 1 year. So I'm trying to make sure you don't mishandle that. So it's the log of the absolute value of 100 minus b. We're almost done, I guess, equals negative 1/5 t plus the log of 80. Now, how do we get rid of that log? E. And then some of you want to bring that plus log of 80 down. Don't. Just leave it there because it's much easier. We don't care. So the absolute value of 100 minus b equals e to the negative 1/5 t plus the log of 80. If I bring it down, it's 80 times that. And so 100 minus b is equal to the positive 1 or 100 minus b is the negative of that. So you guys need to be doing work at night. I know you're busy. Do a half hour. Okay. Subtract. This is the one that's going to work. Minus b equals negative 100 plus e to the negative 1/5 t plus the log of 80. So b equals 100 minus this. And you want to see when t is equal to 0, is b actually equal to 20? Yes, it is, because we're subtracting that. Try out the other one. You'll see it won't work. I believe it's time to go. Yes, it is. Be careful driving home. The snow is going to pick up again.